Hi there, this is Larry London. Welcome back to the Philosophies of Learning series. These are all the series of videos that I'm making to explain how to be very effective in your inner life if you arrange these things on the outer life to protect your inside life of discipline. So today what I'd really like to talk about is the top 10 steps to effective learning. These are the top 10 steps that are in my book series, London's Great Start Drum Set. I've got 10 books, and in every book is a list of the top 10 steps to effective learning. It's so important that I'm going to make a poster size of it so that it can be available for anybody, so that you can glance at these 10 things and keep steering your life towards this ideal of learning so that you can be as effective as possible. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to start with number 10, work my way to number 1. Number 10 step to effective learning is technique. Don't fight physics, relax, and put them to work for you. We discussed this in the previous video about hand technique and foot technique. You want to let the physics work for you. This technique will change every single note you ever play. If you waste 50% of your energy on every stroke, that adds up. If you save 50% of your energy, that adds up. So what you want to do is to have it the most effective way possible, because then you have more time on your mind to think of things that you want to do, changes you want to make. If you get the stick or the pedal to use half as much energy on each stroke, how much is that in a song? What areas would that energy effort be better used? We have to get our technique together. So that's number 10. Number 9. The first time you go through something is the key. After teaching 1,000 people all this time, the real problem, as far as efficiency, is that they go through it too fast, they haven't looked at it, they don't even understand it when they're trying it, and they physically practice it wrong the first time, the second time, the 10th time, the 20th time, until they figure it out. And then when they figure it out, they've already put in 20 times of mistakes if they would have just slowed down and done that first time. So the first time's the key. Play super slow and count out loud. I didn't know counting out loud was so important. I wasn't really taught to count out loud, but when I had students do it versus having students not do it, the students who counted out loud somehow, because they hear their voice saying it empirically in their senses, they hear it, they feel themselves say it, they line the notes up better. They understand it better right away. So it's really important to just slow it down so the notes spread out and you have more time on your mind to think of what the next thing is so that you can play it correctly. There's two things going on. There's rational, mental knowledge of what is supposed to happen, and then there's physical knowledge. There's a weird thing that happens in lessons all the time where they'll make a mistake and I'll say, well, actually you added a bass note there on the of 3, and they'll look at it and they'll go, oh, where? And I'll go on the of 3, and they'll still look kind of puzzled, but they'll go, okay, and they'll start it, and as soon as they get to the of 3, even before they play the note, you can see them physically start to turn and go, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. They do this every time. It's because physical knowledge is so much deeper. It's unconscious. Our physical knowledge, we train ourselves to do it. So if we don't set these things up from the beginning clearly, then you are adding in all of this kind of dysfunction physically that puts question marks every time you start to go to play it. You want to play it as clearly as possible the first time. It seems so obvious, but people do not do it. They rush into it until they get frustrated, and then they finally slow it down. And then you've inputted all these physical actions that are practicing it wrong. So you want to do it right if you can the first time for muscle memory, and then also to be able to sing it correctly. You haven't really learned the song, the rhythmic song. You don't really hear that until you play it correctly, and then you can sing it correctly. If you play it correctly the first time, that is really key. That is like number 9. Otherwise, you're just practicing mistakes. You just got better at practicing mistakes, because the only thing your body knows, the only knowledge it knows, is what it does. It doesn't matter what your mind says it should be doing. It's only what it does. This is why you'll be playing along, and all of a sudden your hand will just play this weird note? Well, it's because you practiced that wrong note a bunch of times before you even got in there. It wants to do it still. So that's why that first time is so key. I couldn't express that enough. We're up to number 8. 8, experience music. Seek out various live and pre-recorded music. All styles influence each other. Use new ideas to improve and broaden your style. You have to hear a large selection of music. Now, when I was growing up, we had the Columbia Music Service that would send the catalog every month, and I would order from every section music I'd never heard of. Out of the blues section, out of the jazz section, out of the Latin section, out of the Spanish section, it didn't matter what it was. I would order different CDs out of every category, and then they would get mailed to my house. And then I would go through them because I was like, I need to have as much exposure to as many kinds of music as possible. And then I would pick out the ones that I felt like I had the least experience, and I'd put them on in these practice recordings. So I would roll through these practice recordings to experience, so my hands could experience playing through songs that I'd never played through, that I probably would never have a natural sort of organic way of playing it with the people that I knew. That way I'd be prepared for later, and when somebody asked me to play, and I would say, yeah, I can play reggae. And so you already have passed through those things. You need to physically experience music with your hands. So try to make a collection of songs of all sorts of things that just seem foreign to you and play through them with your hands. That's number 8. Number 7, courage and patience. You have to take courage to claim the ground for yourself, and you have to have patience to learn it. Most people lack both of these. They lack courage and patience. They don't come naturally. They're part of the virtue structure. It just does not. We are just not born into the virtues. We have to develop them. That's what makes them so special. Courage. I like the Winston Churchill quote that says that courage is the ladder on which all other virtues mount. So you really need courage first, and then you can ladder up on your patience. And you have to be bold to even say that you're going to try something that you don't know how to do. So, and then you have to have the patience to walk through it. And if you can do those two things, courage and patience, then you can learn anything that's set before you. Just have to have courage and patience. They will grow as you use them. The more you use them, the more they grow. We just don't have them naturally. So don't sit around and say, oh, boo-hoo, I've never been a patient person. Well, who cares? Nobody cares about what happened back there. You have charge of your life right now. You can make a whole new life. You're not bound by what you were when you were 13 or 15 or 19 or whatever. You can actually create a whole new paradigm of virtue structure so that your learning is effective. That's number 7. Number 6. Working our way up to number 1. Number 6, questions. Learn from everyone. No one is so bad that you can't learn something from them, even if it's what not to do. A lot of being great is to learn all the things that you have to avoid. Avoid certain types of practice, certain types of thoughts, certain types of people to hang out with, certain types of jobs. You just want to learn in every way, even if it's what to avoid, and then you'll have more brain pan to experience the things that are actually really healthy for you, that are actually very effective for you to learn, and then effective for you to express yourself as an artist. Questions. Questioning minds are learning minds. You question everything that you're doing. This is how I made the series, is because I started questioning all those hundreds of books that I bought, and I was going, there's got to be a better way to write something that would take you right down the freeway of learning. And so that you're not wasting all this time with this kind of the shotgun approach of all these dots and you're trying to connect them. It just takes you right down the path. It seems so obvious to me now. I was really confused by even like odd meters, and I really wanted to know them, but all the advice I was getting from all the books and all the teachers were they all conflicted. It's like nobody had a consensus on what it was. Well, once I found the straight line, I was like, oh, it makes 100% sense now. So get the series, it'll solve that. But you got to ask questions to get to better answers. We talked about this in the last video. A better question will give you more fertile soil to grow these ideas in. That's number 6. Number 5. We're working our way to number 1. Learn to read. I can't tell you how important that is. You can have, a lot of people, I just got another new student and he was saying, I learn better by watching. Well, everybody says this, right? They learn better by watching somebody else. But you don't really understand it because you don't know how it looks, how the subdivisions work. When you see music and you hear music, you can take a problem apart from two different places. You aren't just bound by how you look at it visually. You actually understand the inside matrix of it. When you're inside the matrix of how these numbers work, nothing will surprise you. You'll hear a note and you'll go, oh, okay, every other time I add a bass on, like we talked about, the of 3, let's say, and you understand where the of 3 is. It takes all the other 15 possibilities, the 16th notes, out. You don't stress out about where that note goes. You know exactly where it is. If you want to, you can see it in your mind, or you can just hear it. You have both. You are a full spectrum person. I'm going to do a video just on being a full spectrum person because that's how real learning works. There's a synergy between these ideas. So learn to read. You're not too old to do it. It's not, something that was really frustrating when you were a kid. Believe me, with this 2-line system that I have here that somebody else created, but that I'm using here is so easy. It will not be a problem. So please get the series and learn to read. 2-line. Number 4, take some lessons. I don't care how long you've been playing. Get an outside person to look at your playing. There's only so much you can see about yourself from within yourself. When you have somebody else look at your playing, they see things that you will never see because your brain pan is taken up in a couple things, in processing notes, where, what, how, when, this and the other thing. It's processing your history of where you've been and where you think how well you think you're doing, and then your ego swells up. And I'm telling you, you need an outside person. An outside person has nothing to do but to just sit there without any processing because you're the one processing the lessons, and to just watch and go, I don't know if you've noticed, but your left hand never swings as high as your right hand. Simple things that will change your life if you have an instructor that will see. It puts you under a microscope. You got to swallow your pride to do it. It is worth it. Learn to read. Get some lessons. Number 3, time. More time equals more ability. I absolutely believe this. The more time you spend, the better you are, period. I posted a question on Facebook about a year ago, and it basically said this. Hey, do you think that more time equals more ability? Almost every single response was negative. This is average speak. This is what average people do to set you off to the side so they are comfortable within the casual life they have as a musician. Every student I've ever known and within my own life that studies more, learns more. They spend more time, they're better at it. It's such a simple equation that everybody wants to just be a fusel over. Don't dilute it out. It is the key. More time is more ability. Now, you can spend your time more wisely. We've talked about this. I believe in the great deal of time wisely approach. So you want to get the best of all those worlds together. You don't want to just sit around talking about drums all day. You want to be practicing something that's effectual. The series is effectual. It's proven. Just get on it and follow that track out and spend as much time as possible. Learn to read. 4, take lessons. 3, time. It's huge. We're getting up to, these are huge, mammoth geological shifts of things that will change, they'll make you an effective learner. 2, humility. I can't stress this enough. You have to be humble before the facts that you don't know everything. Now, you might be proud of how far you've come, but you don't know jack about all the possibilities of drumming. Believe me, there are so many more possibilities. I have such a humility before the possibilities. But that actually lets you know that there are so many possibilities in the universe of drumming, just in a drum set, that you could stake out your claim of what you want to do all the way over here and put your flag out here on the edge of the universe just because nobody has gone there. And what we want to do is have a humility before it, because if you don't, you'll start thinking microscopically that this miniaturized little world that you've built inside of yourself for your ego is the entire thing. Now, I'm around people all the time, and you could just see the ego. It just drives you crazy, and they're not very good. A lot of them are, all the best players understand the humility factor, because there's so many possibilities that it allows you to say, hey, this is what I do, and you do what you do, and it doesn't mean that you're not any good or that I'm not any good. You don't have an ego base over it, and you allow every artist to be who they are because the possibilities are so immense. I like the Martin Luther quote that says, what we know is finite, it's limited, but what we don't know is immeasurable. It's infinite. So in drumming, it's the same exact way. We just have to have the humility before the facts, and you have to be, I think thankful people are better learners. People who are thankful they just have a soil that breeds hope and future sort of idea. They don't get locked into this, well, this is the way I am. And that it's turned into the stagnant sort of, petrified drummer type thing where they are still in the same frame of thinking they were, when they were 15. You are always in process, and you are smarter than you've ever been, you're more aware of your body than you've ever been, and you can change and become anything you want to be. If you start implementing these 10 things, you will be really effective. Now, I started late. I felt like I was trying to play catch-up to everybody when I started, and I'm still in this kind of catch-up sort of mode in my mind. I can still feel that I'm still that guy who was trying to catch up for years that are just lost. And I am trying to be as effective as possible so that I can learn the most in the shortest amount of time. I want the right material. I want to have the right mindset, fertile soil for these ideas to be able to grow and to not be a stagnant person that won't allow any new seeds into my life. Humility does that. Ego creates blind spots and false comfort. It does every time. It creates this idea. It's protecting you from the ideas that, well, you don't know everything. But you know what? Actually, it's all backwards. Everything is backwards. You want to embrace this idea that you don't know everything. That's where the learning begins. Don't pretend to be great, but also don't be afraid to learn. It takes more strength to be humble and kind than it does to be boastful and selfish. I got to read that again. It takes more strength to be humble and kind than it does to be boastful and selfish. As a drummer, I'd rather infinitely be around a humble, kind person, no matter how good or bad they are. They're so much more enjoyable. And because they are open. They're open to you. They're open to the possibilities. They're open to the humility of the universe of possibilities. I love this quote from Andre Gide. True intelligence readily conceives of an intelligence superior to its own. This is why truly intelligent people are modest. Everybody at the top understands that they don't know everything and that we are all learning and in process. So that's number 2. Working our way to number 1. Number 1, and this is the most important thing, is you have to take responsibility for your life. Here it is. It's your life. If you are a failure, it's your fault and no one else's. It's your life. If you're a failure, it's your fault and no one else's. When I read that, my name automatically goes in there. It says, Larry, it's your life. If you, Larry, are a failure, it's your fault, Larry, and no one else's but Larry's. I just was raised in this idea that you have to take full responsibility for everything. I love the quote that says, if you let circumstances stop you, they will always stop you. You cannot let them stop you. You have to take responsibility and take charge. It's not your wife or your family or your setting or your job. It's you. It's you. It's all on you. If you're a success, you've earned it, and no one can take credit for it but you. People need responsibility. They resist assuming it, but they cannot get along without it. John Steinbeck. We need responsibility in our life. And when you start embracing responsibility, internalizing it, that's where learning really happens. You get some humility before the facts. It won't crush you. You just get out there and go, look, I don't have to know everything. I just want to be the best that I can be. And that's what this series is designed to do, is to help you be open to all those possibilities so that you can design a musical life to be as free to play what you want to play. Without regard to what style it is or what subdivision structure it is, time signatures. You want the most freedom possible, and then you get to pick what you want to espouse as your art form. You're out of that whole wheel. You'll get to understand and go, this is the one. This is the one area for me. A different area maybe for somebody else. That's their life, but this area is my area. That's what I'm trying to do with the Master L and the linear squared idea. You want to watch those videos because they will express all those different mechanical movements, and it'll give you ideas for your own artistic ideas. Thanks so much for joining me in the Philosophy of Learning series. Hey guys, I love doing these videos. I love sharing my heart of all these things I've been talking about and teaching, and they are very effective at helping you become the person that you want to be. The series will help you do that. Go to my site, my channel. It's Larry London Drummer. There's hundreds of videos on there that will run down all these things in the outer circle so that in our inner circle we can really be true artists and define our contribution to drumming. I want to thank you again for joining me as we walk through all this crazy drumming stuff together.